Welcome back to the Layman's Law School, everybody. Thank you for joining us again. Today we have a very special episode, number 1. We're in a new studio, as you can see.
Moving on up.
Moving on up.
We're on the 12th floor.
Yeah, that's right.
High rise.
That's
High
right.
rise.
Look at that view.
Yeah, and
Well, we're not moving up, but our
That's true.
our podcast crew
That's true.
definitely
Starts
is.
to make me wonder where these chicks are going.
Well, today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to talk about liability, criminal liability, civil liability in some of our favorite Christmas movies. And I'm going to start us off today with Home Alone, but before we do that, Reid has a booby trap he has laid on the desk in front of him.
It looked like no booby trap to me.
It's it's Bud
Plain
Light.
sight.
I feel like a boob
It's a
drinking
Friday.
it.
Yeah, gotta get you one. Linz, I brought you one. Also, Shawn, I don't
She's
know.
like, thank you.
I don't know if the camera can pick this up, but I just looked at your tie. That's a beautiful tie.
It actually
Does it say RS?
It has RS on it.
Reid
I
Sanders.
took it out of Reid's closet one night.
Just says RS all over it. I was
and,
like, I got to get that tie.
I was told that I had to wear something that was holiday themed, and it was the first red tie I found. And I said, "Well, perfect. It's
He's
what
the most
would
festive guy I
Reid's
know.
tie?
What would Reid wear? That's what you're thinking. What would Reid wear?
Oh,
That
sorry.
boy, I'm proud of
Yeah,
you.
we didn't even cheers. We just all went for
Proud
it.
of you know.
We're thirsty.
Cheers.
It's Friday.
And we don't have the desk. You're too far away. We'll get the desk back, folks. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We're getting it back. Go
Kevin
ahead, Jay.
McCallister and Home Alone. I wanted to be this kid. I wanted burglars coming to my house so bad when I was
Every time
little.
I watch it, I want to order a cheese pizza. I don't even like cheese pizza, but if I'm watching Home Alone, I want to eat a cheese pizza.
Yeah, I mean,
All by
it
myself.
is a funny, silly show about a kid defending his house. But in actual reality, it's just a multitude of civil liability, criminal liability. People can go to jail for all kinds of things. You know, we have Marv and Harry, who are based on
The Wet Bandits.
The Wet Bandits, yeah.
they did a lot of things to get their name right. And they're screwing it up.
Yeah, the Wet Bandits, they earned some considerable jail time here. But let's start at the beginning. First, we're going to try to identify some of the crimes committed by the parents here. Do we have any crimes committed?
Well, I got one question on it that we were talking about. The leaving the kid there, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how old Kevin's supposed to be. What was he, 10?
10, 11, I think.
Something. But it got me thinking on that part because recently, I don't remember what county in Georgia, but the woman got arrested in Georgia for letting her 11-year-old son walk less than a mile to the grocery store.
Wow.
And they came to her house and arrested her, said the child, and it was like old, like how I grew up. They just walked to the store, and she said she wouldn't, they gave her a chance to just pay court costs. She said absolutely not. She's not doing it, and I don't blame her.
What grade is this? I have a problem with identifying.
Fifth,
a 5th or 6th grader.
Yeah. I mean,
Depends on the neighborhood.
It does not depend on the neighborhood.
It does.
But when I was in
A block? How
when
long
I was in
it?
first and
Said less
second
than a
grade,
mile,
I rode my
so-
bike all over the town.
me too. I rode it to Wally's across
All over.
the street.
Is that 10?
We went everywhere.
Is that about
I have
10
no
years old?
idea, but I was in first and second grade, and I was not
Yeah,
held
yeah,
back
that's
for
about-
sports
that's about-
or anything
that's
like that.
That's about 10 years old.
No, first
I had
and
a- I had a-
second
I had a
grade? No.
sh-
You're about 8. You're about
No,
7
no.
or 8
We
there.
were talking about 6th grade, I thought we talked
Yes,
about.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
sixth grade, yeah.
No, but I'm talking about the 5th or 6th graders.
You're
Are
walking.
certainly
Yeah. I had a shotgun at that time.
absolutely.
Yeah, so
We'll get back to that
we'll get back to that later. Yeah.
So anyway,
Anyway, the child
I will
abandonment.
I will say that during the time that the story took place, which I believe is the 90s, there's zero chance that there'd be any criminal negligence of these parents because I know how parents
That's
were in the
true.
90s, and that was you come home when the street lights on, you got to,
But going flying to
Paris for 4 days.
I
and
agree.
forgetting their child,
I just say
might,
that
might be a little bit of neglect.
Yeah.
Although I mean they realized that
they did everything they could to try to get back.
and they exactly they
Yeah,
tried to
well-
mitigate
They did mitigate
their,
the
their
damage.
issue.
And that may affect their sentencing, but this is a Class 4 felony in the jurisdiction in which this was set in Illinois, which carries a sentence up to 3 years. So, that plus you could also characterize this as child endangerment because it's, you don't just have to abandon your child. You can also leave them in a car when it's hot, leaving a child of that age at home alone for that amount of time.
I think
You think they're
I think they're good. I think they're good.
free birds?
Yeah.
Well, you really got to think about, not every 10-year-old has the same
Right.
level of maturity. And based on the movie, it's obvious that
Obvious.
he had
He
the
had
maturity
tons in
level to
spades.
not only stay home alone, but thrive
Thrive.
and thwart the wet bandits.
Make friends and
Well-
And was worried
get
about
some
his
criminals.
dental hygiene,
Yeah.
while they were gone.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but then we're gonna segue into all these man traps. Isn't that what they're
Yeah,
called?
yeah.
That's
That
very
he
true.
intentionally set
Well,
That's right.
That's where
in the
Marv
same areas you're talking
Marv
about.
can sue the McCallisters for injuries, which he had a lot.
That's right.
What
Yeah.
What do we think the worst thing that happened to the wet bandits? They got their asses
Yeah.
handed to them.
Mhm.
So I think it's that nail in the foot that Marv got. That makes me.
Yeah, that's visually cringing, but
I've
I've
had
I've
that.
been
It's not that
I've been
bad.
burnt before.
Burns the
Oh,
worst.
So
when you first saw his head?
yeah. He's not just putting on a hat and keeping
Yeah, yeah.
going. He's going to the hospital. That would have been
Yeah.
end of the night for me.
Paint can over the rail,
I agree.
probably,
I agree.
the headshot with that,
Especially
depending
if it
on
was
how
a
much
full-
paint was
full
in it.
paint
Yeah,
can,
full
full
paint
paint
can.
Death.
I was going to say most of
Or
these
close to
people
it.
would be dead.
Yeah, I'm gonna vote with Shawn on that one. I got.
The paint cans.
Yeah.
I will take that back because I don't think it would hurt that much because I think you'd be dead so quickly. There wouldn't be a lot of pain. We talk about that with wrongful death
Quick.
claims. It's
Yeah.
strange, but that's part of the law. You have to talk about the
How
length
long did
of
the
how
person live
suffer.
before they die?
I think that
Well,
the
yeah.
burn is going to hurt a long time. That paint can, even if it doesn't kill you, you're knocked out immediately. You're
Absolutely.
you're
Yeah.
out. So as far as pain,
Yeah.
I think I changed my vote to
You
Chace's.
initially said the micro machines or
Yeah.
the Legos, and
Yeah.
I was like,
I didn't
know.
know that was Kip. That was Kip.
See,
That was
I
never
honestly-
me.
He's not here to defend
Yeah, that
himself.
was definitely Kip.
Yeah, I honestly think that you could have like a rage room type business, where you people pay to go in to smash
The
stuff.
Home Alone.
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah,
Some
a
of those,
Home
yeah.
Alone
Home Alone
thing where
theme
you
one?
can be Kevin or you can be Harry and Marv, and if you catch Kevin, you win
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something like that. Yeah, because I've always wanted to set up some stuff like this.
Escape room
I
like
do.
that.
I may or may not have some things set up like
That-
this at my house currently.
I will say
So,
this: that is the
uh,
least surprising thing that you've ever said. Like if somebody came up to you and says Chace makes man traps at his house, I go, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That checks out.
Yeah. So if you want to come to the house, by all means, anytime.
Call before you come, obviously.
Yeah. Hot Tub Tuesday is a little different at Chace's house.
Well, if we thanks for throwing that in.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We were talking about man traps and booby traps, and why we talk about that is it's an important distinction in the law. So you're allowed to defend your home. Kevin was within his rights, especially in this particular jurisdiction, which actually has what we call the castle doctrine, which means he has no duty to retreat and can defend himself inside of his own home. That you cannot, for trespassers, set out traps that are hidden things that can harm them. And the most famous case that sort of established this was a guy that had set up an old shack that on his property that people kept going into to get stuff out of, and he rigged a little string to a shotgun, and the guy pushed the door open. When he pushed the
Blew
door
his
open, the
head off.
shotgun shot him in the stomach. So we have
Use
a
birdshot.
So
Use birdshot. Might have got away with it.
maybe
Buckshot.
or salt.
Rock salt.
Yeah. He might have got away with it. So you have a duty to not set these types of man traps, and the idea is that as public policy, we don't want people defending their homes in this way.
Yeah.
Right? That is a real minefield of civil liability for them. But Kevin is going to be protected from most of,
He's a
all, if
minor.
not from all of his crimes. Really, no, just because he's defending his home.
Yeah.
And the only question is whether or not it's
Reasonable.
within reasonable. But with considering his size, and he's
His
got
age.
two people
Well,
after
and
him.
that's what
Yeah, he can
I
burn
would
him with a
go
torch.
farther to say that he's not defending his home, but
Himself.
he's
Himself.
present.
Yeah.
So he is, defending
Yeah,
himself,
himself, yeah.
I agree.
from.
Well, and
these-
he's heard him talk about killing him,
Yeah.
Right.
essentially. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you're at every second, if they're around, you're defending yourself from death.
Right.
And you can take whatever steps necessary.
And I'm sure in Illinois as well, as here in Georgia, you have an absolute right
Sure.
to use whatever reasonable force
Paint-
is.
whether that be
And if you're
blowtorches,
present-
paint cans,
If you're sitting there present in the house, it's like a home invasion. I mean, this is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
forcible felony
Yeah.
type thing that you are trying to prevent and
Yeah.
protect yourself from. So
Yeah, so Shawn just said a very important thing. Reasonable force to defend your home. So Kevin shoots him with a BB gun. He burns their head. all while they're trying to enter. Marv's trying to enter, putting his head through the cat door. Harry comes in the house and it pulls the string that burns his head. They're trying to enter. Let's just say, for instance, we change the scenario a little bit. Make Kevin 17, and he has both of them tied up. And then he burns Marv's head. And then he shoots Marv.
That's a little bit of a different story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then you're torturing somebody. So it's like, well, you're using reasonable force, using it in a reasonable way. These are all things that you have to consider. If someone's trying to put a flyer on your door and you open your door and you point a gun at them, you know, that might not be considered reasonable in defending your home.
Unless you had your no soliciting sign up. I mean, well, then, you know.
I'll tell you what, one for me on this movie that most people wouldn't think about, and I think it's clear civil liability, is the poor pizza man.
Oh,
Poor pizza man.
Absolutely.
And
He's delivering a
emotional
pizza,
distress.
and he thinks he's getting shot at. He has to fall over the bushes. He's probably tore a ligament or something.
Right?
That's
Personal
the man.
injury.
That's the man I want to speak
Yeah,
to.
it's intentional infliction of emotional
He
distress.
did it on
Yeah,
purpose.
sure.
Everybody can
Absolutely.
agree to that.
Yeah.
He made the
Yeah.
guy think he was getting shot at.
Yeah, so
Injured him.
so that's one of the elements is you have to either fear grievous bodily harm to yourself, typically, or watch it happen to somebody that you're close enough to be within the zone of
He
where
did both.
danger. Yeah,
He thought somebody was getting shot, and then he was getting shot at.
Yeah,
Keep the change,
he got it
you
almost.
filthy animal.
Exactly. I'm taking the pizza man's case.
And of course, Harry and Marv, these guys, they've committed burglary, and that's what they're known for doing. But they have some other crimes that they've committed here. Just in actually casing the homes and planning it out prior to doing it, that's conspiracy. And that also has a sentence that goes along with it. So
Possession of burglary tools.
well, they had
Prowling.
prowling, stalking. They drove around the neighborhood, chasing him around in the van.
Well, they confessed to a bunch of them too. So
Yeah,
he's got a history now. He said left his calling card to tie to all the other burglaries that he's done or they've done.
There is, however, before we move on, one crime Kevin can be charged with. Can y'all name what that crime is?
Well, he definitely had some financial fraud by using his parents' stuff at the grocery store, checks and stuff.
No.
That's 100%. That's 100% a crime.
Didn't he steal something out of the store?
Yes.
The toothbrush.
The
Toothbrush.
There
That's
you
right.
go.
Yeah.
Shoplifting is going to be a misdemeanor.
Well, he had some financial
Maximum
fraud
1
in there.
year in
100% financial.
He needed those
jail.
fresh teeth.
Yeah, and I'll just tell you this. So the Wet Bandits is one of the ways in which I learned Rule 408 of the Federal Rules of Evidence as to character evidence. And typically you can't say that a person did this burglary and use evidence of other burglaries they did, right, to say, okay, they're a burglar, so they probably did this one. That's bad character evidence, right? But if they do the burglaries in a particular way that makes it a signature, which is exactly what they did. They called themselves the Wet Bandits. They screamed out, "We're the Wet Bandits," as they're getting arrested.
Well, Marv did.
Marv,
Harry was
Signature,
Harry was pretty
or
pissed
people
about it.
always, say MO.
Yeah.
Or modus operandi.
Yeah.
If you're doing something in a very particular way that is readily identifiable throughout a pattern type thing, then the jury should be allowed to consider that.
Yeah.
But just saying that, Marv shoplifted 5 years ago, therefore he's more than likely to have committed this burglary, would be improper.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right.
I think that wraps it up. I think when I totaled it up, I think I gave Marv and them about 71 years. Marv and Harry for all their crimes, considering how many homes.
That's the biggest, I guess, hole in the Home Alone 2s and everything else afterwards. These guys have been in prison for the rest of their lives.
Well, they escaped in the
Yeah,
Homeland too,
they
so
just-
they probably would have stayed in there. But
forever.
what's our next movie here?
Shawnee?
Am I going next for the
how
next
about that?
movie?
Let's do that.
The next movie we're going to discuss is a much older movie than Home Alone. It's
Came out the year I was born.
it's the one that normally
Good
did it really?
Lord.
What year was that?
1937.
83. Wow.
Yep. So
Trying
it's
to remember
41
if
years old.
You're the same age as my wife. She was born in 1983
Right.
as well.
You're just begging to get hurt today. Just-
What? We all look so young, it doesn't even matter. Age is just a number to us. And we certainly don't act our age, that's for sure. But A Christmas Story, which came out in 1983, according to Lindsey, is a fantastic movie that normally, at least in this market, during Christmas time, runs like 24/7 on one of the stations, maybe like TBS or something.
TBS, it runs at 24 on Christmas
So you
Day.
can catch it. If you've never seen it, it's a great movie, and it's about little Ralphie, who all he wanted for Christmas was official Red Ryder carbine action 200 shot model range air rifle.
Wow.
For Christmas. And of course his mom was against it because she said, you're going to shoot your eye out. He even asked Santa at the mall for it and was immediately rebuffed. You're going to shoot your eye out.
Caught a boot to the face.
Yeah.
And then let alone his dad, who was not the most in the movie, didn't seem
Don't
like
say
he was
sophisticated.
He was
he
he was the most loving. He didn't seem like the most loving father. He was
yeah,
always
yeah.
That was the beauty of the twist.
yeah,
though.
just cussing,
Yeah.
people
wanted
out,
his
and
leg.
ornery, and then he did surprise Ralphie with the Red Ryder BB gun for Christmas. And what did Ralphie do? He shot his eye out, or shot himself in the eye and broke his glasses, which he had broken his glasses several times. So a lot of people have questions about that. Like when we
have
have
the biggest question.
Sure.
When that kid had his tongue stuck to the pole, who's in trouble? The school? Is Ralphie in trouble? Was it Ralphie that convinced him? Yeah, it was Ralphie, right? Made him do it because he had his.
No. Flick was the one who,
yeah.
and it was the other
Well,
kid.
and I also let's preface
you
this
smart
before we
ass.
go on with liability and all that. Let's say that this happened. We have to get a time period.
Sure.
So I know this happened in the 50s in the movie, but we're talking laws now. Because nothing would have happened then. I promise you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying let's pretend that it happened now and do it that way.
Okay, fair.
And nothing's going to happen now.
Yeah. I'm just
certainly not to the school.
No.
And government entities and school boards and everything have sovereign immunity, and it's basically an idea that you can't really sue them unless they waive it in some way and agree to let you sue them or do some action that waives their sovereign immunity because it's protecting us because the government is actually us. It's our tax-paying dollars, things like that. Schools have a very strong immunity from things that kids do while on school property.
Gotcha.
And
But
unless you can show something that's really, 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 really egregious and reckless.
Yeah.
I think you could potentially make a claim against the kids that were trying. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be worth anything, but I think you could make a claim that the kids had some duty of responsibility because it was a bullying action, and I think you could have a claim. That would be the only. It's like a premise liability case, slip and fall in a grocery store or something. And we've had one of these, Chace, recently. And then 10 seconds before our guy fell, a kid knocks a glass over. Yeah, somebody's still liable, but it's the kid. So you can't really do anything.
Yeah,
and that's how this would be. I mean, there is probably what's his name. Nick, what is his name? The kid who kept Flick. He probably has a recovery against one of the bullies, but it's not going to happen.
No. You got to have damages.
Yeah.
It's not.
You got to have damages and
somebody being able to pay for it. Well, you got to have somebody able to pay for it.
That's not something you bring people out of their lives for a jury trial. And ultimately, a case is always valued as what a jury would say it's worth.
Sure.
Right, and that's what we're arguing about all the time when we're trying to settle the
fear,
case. Right,
we're putting the fear of risk in an insurer to pay the true value of the case based on what a jury would see the value of.
Right, and then you're talking about, hey, you made my tongue hurt for a couple of days. That's not the kind of thing that you stop the life of a judge, a court reporter, and lawyers and stuff, and a bunch of jurors, bailiffs to litigate.
Yeah,
you wait until something else worse happens, like having your eye shot out.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that a lot of people have questions about and think about is, when a child is injured with a BB gun, like that, whether it be a child that got shot by another or whether it be Ralphie, who shot and had a ricochet and shot himself, is there any liability on the behalf of the manufacturer of the BB gun, or we would be looking even further, is there any liability on the person who sold the BB gun or air rifle to him? And in modern times, very unlikely that there would be, just because it's a, it's an instrument that everyone knows what it is. It is only sold to people of a certain age.
Yep.
It has all sorts of warnings and, a manual in it full of warnings about what to do, what not to do. It's readily apparent that if you shoot something hard with a BB, it is going to ricochet. And if you, choose to do that, the thing I would look at, though, is, would be towards the parents, but you can't really sue your own parents.
That's where I was about to go with
if I was to give, my son a BB gun and just let him run out in the yard, and he was to shoot the next door neighbor's kid, and I wasn't supervising him, and he was at an age that he should be supervised, there's some negligent entrustment of an instrument like that. I
think that's the key to, like, everything that I can really think of from this movie, outside of like Santa and a couple other little ones, but it's like, the action that you would take place, that you could take, would be against the homeowner's policy, but the homeowners are your parents, or vice versa, and you can't sue your parents, you can't sue yourself. So you that's where you run into blocks. But like Shawn was saying, like if this happened if a neighbor came over and these things happened, or if you were at a neighbor's house and it happened, then you could. But you have that like immunity with your family. You really can't do anything.
Well, I just had a very funny conversation. The gentleman, a good friend of mine, had a tip of his finger bitten off by his own dogs. Right. His own dogs were fighting. He went to split them up, and just by him,
hard to sue yourself.
And we were joking about it. He was like, I don't think that my homeowner's insurance is going to allow me. And I said, no. But now that I know that you have these vicious animals, if I was to be at your house and you did not protect me from these. Then maybe I might have a claim against you.
It's a known hazard now.
Exactly.
I mean, Santa pushing him down certainly could be, the slide could be something there.
But with going back to the gun, this is the thing that's made to cause harm. And so we always require people to use common sense and be reasonable. That is one of the most widely used terms in our law, reasonable. But a jury decides what that is. And the injury happening the way it did, the kid would have no recourse whatsoever against the gun manufacturer. But there are a lot, and I would encourage any gun owner out there. I have a lot of guns. I would encourage any gun owner to constantly, just at least once a year, go and search if there are any sort of recalls for your weapons, because people can use the guns exactly as intended, and the guns can go off when the safety's on. They can go off when they're not supposed to be cocked back. I mean, all kinds of, they just drop them on the floor and the gun goes off. There's all kinds of different gun manufacturers that if you're injured in that type of situation, that is different when animal. You have a recovery. If the kid had been just pumping the BB gun and you pulled a little lever up and the thing, if it shot out and hit him in the eye, he would have a chance. He would have a way to recover because he's using it as intended, and that's very important.
Well,
and
I would probably argue against that, but
why
because the number one rule of
never point
firearm
a gun to
safety is never point a gun at anything that you're not prepared to destroy. So even if you're cocking the gun, you shouldn't have it pointed at your face.
We would disagree with it. Like it's reasonable. It's reasonable to assume that a child is going to have this. It's reasonable to assume that a child is not going to be a master of gun safety. That this is a learning gun for every child that I've ever known that coming up around here. Because everybody got a BB gun first, right? Why? Because it can't hurt you too bad if you mess up with it, and if it's defectively manufactured and it harms the child when it's supposed to be safe. I would think it was safe, if I'm cocking it.
If that's what we would do if somebody came in and brought us a case like that. We'd say, all right, we'd have to go through that, and even the case that I want to take, I'm going to argue against it sometimes to see where, like Shawn's saying, where is the weakness. Can we win this thing? What are we going to do with it? What's the value? Unfortunately, that's what you have to have.
Yeah, so I don't see any negligence in this case that I would want to take a case
and again,
on.
No damages. The only thing there was Ralphie's broken glasses, and he had a kind of hurt eye.
Yeah, he didn't shoot his eye out.
He did not. But he broke his glasses for the second or third time in the movie.
Yeah.
Icicles have been known to kill people. So. My mom's favorite line. Says it all the time.
And so, Reid, what have you brought for us today?
I'm gonna try to just go from memory. I haven't seen it this year yet.
Yes, you have.
I saw a touch of it. When my team was losing, I turned it off and watched it. It's Christmas Vacation, everybody's favorite.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Very, very simple, easy movie to digest.
I brought some props from my own.
Clark Griswold.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things in it, but essentially, if you haven't seen it, there is a family in the 90s that is having their in-laws, both sides, over for Christmas. And then they had some surprise uncles and nieces and nephews come as well. And the father, Clark, he was waiting for his bonus check to install the pool, and that check is not coming. And then chaos ensues with lighting the house, riding a sled, having the in-laws, which is one thing that I disagree with. And the kidnap, there's a lot of things.
Don't forget the kidnapping.
Don't forget there's a lot. The major felony that took place.
The one thing that I think is the craziest thing about it, and I didn't know this until recently. I saw somebody write something on it, and I agree with it, is the craziest thing in that movie is that both sets of parents came for 10 days.
Oh.
Whoa, 10 days.
My God.
Outrageous. 10 days? I mean, that's a lot. 10 days is a lot. I love my family, but 10 days.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a lot of different legal.
That you would not spend 10 days at your house with Mr. Sanders, Dennis Sanders.
Not with Dennis, Price, Pam, Kay, all of them. In my house, no, there's too small. I got to have room,
What
man.
if you had a bigger house, would you do?
It'd have to be a big house.
Yeah.
And the Griswold house was nice, but it wasn't that
nice. It wasn't that nice.
You'd fare better on the Vegas vacation.
Absolutely.
They're staying in their
Absolutely.
own rooms.
I'd do that for a month.
Okay. 10 days there, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, but there's lots of issues. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, you can't go on anybody's land and cut down trees.
Well, yeah.
All right, unless you have permission, you can't go and cut down trees. That's true if you're in on federal land.
Yeah, Clark, let's just put it out
National
there.
parks.
Clark did a lot of things.
I just thought about something before that, though. What happens if your vehicle goes underneath a logging truck?
That's reckless driving. I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
Child endangerment.
He better have full
all
coverage,
the things.
He's not getting a penny if he doesn't. That's a lot of things. And I mean, and that's
you can flip the driver off, though.
Yes.
That's not illegal.
No. Freedom of speech.
Maybe I can't remember her name, but the supermodel, maybe she's got some negligence. She's enticing him.
I think that was Vegas.
That was Vegas too?
Yeah.
You're talking
blurring
about,
together.
You're thinking of the department store girl.
Yeah.
The department store girl.
Mary.
Yeah.
'Tis the season to be merry. That's my name.
That's my name. No joke. So the car. Why did I forget? Why did he run into the?
He was racing.
Fighting.
They was racing with this other car. So that's reckless driving.
Yeah. And it's racing. That's a charge.
Yeah.
Definitely endangered his children while doing that and wrecking. I think he could go to jail for. Sparky's got a lot of problems.
He's destroying his neighbor's property, sending ice through the thing. He's
Why is the carpet all wet, Todd?
I don't know, Marco.
Yeah,
we could probably all just sit here.
I love. It's one of the greatest movies of all time.
That tree. Bend over.
Not
I'll
talking
show
to you. Yeah,
not talking.
Yeah, those are good. Obviously, the uncle. I mean, cousin Eddie. I mean, he's got a lot of liability. Where should we start with? Well,
let's start with the daughter.
Yeah.
Gets kicked by a mule. Eyes go cross. Falls down a well. Eyes go uncross.
Yeah, I'm sure they didn't take her to a doctor. Why is she falling down a well? Why is she getting kicked by a donkey? Snot obviously has some problems, and he's just spreading germs and disease all over the place.
But he's destroying property.
Yeah.
He goes to their house, destroys property. Snot's also attacks Margot at the end. So he's got and he's
not on a leash.
Yeah, but he's got knowledge that dog's vicious.
Yes,
I forgot that he
got
he said, look,
Mississippi Leghound.
If he goes on, starts on you, let him finish.
Let him finish.
No, that's just him rummaging through the trash. Cousin Eddie's got a lot of problems with that and the dog. And then obviously the big one, kidnapping.
Yeah.
And what are we doing there? So at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But the boss says he's not going to press charges.
Right.
What happened?
Okay, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So everything's fine, right? Isn't that how it works?
That's not how it works.
Well, I can tell you if it is done right there on the scene, it's much more likely for it to result in the police saying, okay, well, you don't want to mess with it. I mean, it happens every day here in Augusta. They go to investigate a person that's been shot, and they won't say anything about it. Yeah. I mean, it's not that they're not prosecuting the person that did it. It's just that this person's not cooperating. A crime happened against them.
The victim,
wash your hands of it.
Yeah.
You know. So in that situation, but had they been arrested, and then, you know, which we see in lots of cases, and then months down the road, just the fact that the victim or alleged victim says, I don't want to prosecute, doesn't necessarily preclude, because when you're committing a crime, you're committing a crime against the state of Georgia or whatever state and the citizens of Georgia, because
I
these
think
are our laws.
With going on that same line, I think if it was anybody but Cousin Eddie, I think that it would be a more likely chance that the state would prosecute regardless of what the boss says. So if it's Clark doing it, there's too much of a close personal relationship between boss and employee. It's something else, because if something else does happen, then the state's really kind of looked at as being responsible because you didn't act when something happened. Or if it was a marital dispute, something like that, you're not going to be able to say, oh, I don't want to prosecute. No, they're getting y'all apart, away from each other. But since Cousin Eddie and the boss really don't have any close connection, it's hard to say, oh, well, he in the future is going to do something about it.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it does. I mean, it changes depending on what the crime is.
Right.
If my car was stolen by some 18-year-old kid and I filed a police report and they arrested him, recovered my car, and the district attorney's office called me months later and said, we're prosecuting this case. And I said, you know what? This is an 18-year-old kid. He did something stupid. I don't want to prosecute.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to cooperate. They're probably going to dismiss the case or reduce it significantly to something. But if it was some type of violence, you know, or especially in these days, domestic violence cases, they are so worried about, and rightly so, that, okay, we let this guy off or we dismiss this case because the wife doesn't want to prosecute, and then next week she winds up dead.
Exactly. He went and killed her. I mean, you know, that's unfortunately that's the truth.
Sure.
I mean, and judges are weary and should be and scared of that. They're elected officials, and you don't hear about a judge unless they do something that the public doesn't like. You don't hear the good stuff that all these judges do. You just hear, this judge let this guy out. You know, so they're going to be very cautious on that kind of stuff. So and that goes with prosecutors as well. Is like, hey, I don't care if the victim doesn't want to prosecute. This dude beat this woman up. Like, we're going to prosecute him. You know, it's that kind of stuff.
I think, Lindsey, when you think of like bad crimes, what do you think of immediately?
Non-Christmas related, just in general.
Yeah, so you think of murder, murder, rape, robbery, whatever.
Assault,
I mean, I think
child molestations.
Yeah, sexual.
Anything involving kids,
right?
And that's probably more so because I'm a parent, right? If you'd asked me that 4 years ago, I would probably have said like murder, rape. But now that I have a child, I'm like, you touch a kid, you touch anybody's kid, I'm you know, kind of thing.
Yeah, so. And here's the thing is that's interesting, because people immediately go to murder, rape, you know, other sexual types of crimes or whatever, but kidnapping has one of the highest penalties out there for sentencing. Well, it is really
because
rough.
Of the lasting effects of what it does to you, though, right?
Well, there's a lot of reasons for it, but people, I'm just saying this because people aren't aware, number one, of just how serious of a crime it is, and number two,
and how easy it is.
How easy it is to do. Yep. So explain to them what you're talking about.
Well, it's just I mean, Shawn knows the
code
way more.
Tell them about what asportation is.
Well, Shawn knows way more about it than I do. I can tell you that, criminal stuff. But you know, kidnapping, people think of kidnapping as like what you see in Christmas Vacation.
Yep.
I mean, you take a dude away and blah, blah, blah. But kidnapping can be just not letting you leave, and you don't really have to hardly even move them. It's just a very temporary.
All you have to do is move them.
It is moving, but it's very temporary.
If I lock you in this room here,
can it be
false imprisonment?
And
if I took you from the hallway and moved you a foot into the room,
right?
Kidnapping.
And but it's the timing too. I thought was strange in that it can be like a step.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And so people are out there thinking that, you know, I'm having an argument with my wife, and I'm going to take her, and I'm taking her to her mother's, and they're physically fighting. He puts her in the car and takes her to her mother's.
Kidnapping her.
Yeah.
If a prosecutor wants to go out there and prosecute him,
like
for that,
Shawn just said, if
he's going to meet the elements of the crime.
Move somebody into a room, then you got 2 charges.
Yeah.
You know, and 2 serious charges.
Right. Yeah. So somebody can be thinking they're just having an argument, and you're going to take your wife to your mother's or to her mother's house where she can be, you know, her mother can talk to her.
The last thing I'm going to do is take my wife to her mother's if I'm arguing with her.
No, what you do is
I might put her in an Uber and say, you go see your mother, but I'm not going.
You tell her you're acting like your mother. Then it fixes that.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah. Well, then you have murder. But no. Yeah. So in addition to that, you got a lot of liability for Clark with all his the way he arranged those lights. All kinds of fire hazards. I don't know how many laws he would necessarily be breaking. Building codes, maybe.
Well, you also got liability on him by. I'm sure he hurt some people and he damaged some property with his super slick grease that he put on his sled.
Yeah, potential
that was stolen from his company to make it super slick. It's not even supposed to be used on the sled. And so not only it's theft, things that hadn't been tested yet, and he's putting it on a sled that's going down a mountain with people and cars and kids. Yeah, tons
1,000 times slicker than Teflon.
I mean, I like his spirit, but I'm just saying there's a lot of problems with what's going on there.
See, but the reason why we like these movies is because we can relate to them. We can all have gone on a vacation and done something like putting something we shouldn't have on a sled and going through a wall.
I would never.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. But at the same time, there was a recent congressional hearing, and it was about the over-criminalization of this country, and it was a U.S. district attorney that was part of a watchdog group that basically examines the criminalization of just everyday life, and he put forth a statistic that shocked me, and he says that everyday Americans, on average, commit 3 felonies per day in their everyday life. That's how criminalized our
I would agree with that.
Now I realize why everybody had called me less than average my entire life. There's absolutely no way I'm committing.
Mr. Law and Order.
I'm not committing 3 felonies a day, much less 1.
Well, I mean, they should say, for instance, Clark Griswold. He knows his bonus check's coming. He writes a check. It's over $500, and he can't. He knows he can't cover it unless that bonus check comes in. That is financial fraud. That is a felony. Over $500, that's a felony.
I think you could be arguably charged with 3 felonies.
Yeah,
arguably.
You could arguably be charged. That's right. That's right. But I mean,
and there's some laws that are just
point,
not even. They're still on the books, but it's just nobody even knows about them.
It's just they write them on the books so that they have the threat of force if they want to. And that's the thing is that he's saying is like we should not be under that much scrutiny all the time, and they shouldn't have as
the
that
law
big of a
is always this way, and we've talked about it, but that's why you got to be so careful in making a law, because once it happens, once you give that right away, it's not coming back.
No.
Like once it's out there to say you can't do. I mean, prohibition is like the only example that proves the rule essentially.
Thank God.
Yeah, but if you get one on the books, it is.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's why they call them Supreme Court case decisions, right? And it's why they're so important. It's because once they put the law on the books, the only way to have that thing really overturned is if it violates a state constitution or if it violates the U.S. Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, that's enforceable, and you're going either to state prison or federal prison or county or whatever.
So to wrap up the 3 movies, I'd say
everybody's going
Shawn's
to jail.
is not getting anything because it's based in the 50s.
Yeah.
I don't think Clark's getting in much trouble because it's in the 90s, and the McCallister are going to be fine. They're going to get their stuff paid for because they got insurance in the 90s, and nobody's getting in trouble. That's
Harry and Marv.
Harry and
Marv are going.
I'm saying
to jail.
the good guys in
the
movie.
good guys in the movie. I think that's probably right.
And I would say that there's a much higher chance that they would face some civil or criminal charges. All 3 of them in these cases if it was all done in 2024.
I mean,
Guaranteed.
what about Cousin Eddie emptying his septic
gray
water
didn't mention that.
into the
EPA violations? It's a Clean Water Act violation for the state of Illinois. Yeah, and then you got what was his name? The old man. Uncle something. That guy, exactly. Yeah.
His hat's blowing up. That's not a North Star Clark.
Yeah, that's a nitroglycerin.
He couldn't hear a dump truck going through a nitroglycerin plant.
That's pretty good, Reid. But yeah, him lighting a cigar right next to a Christmas tree. These are all civil little bitty things, but guys, when y'all are having your Christmas, try not to have any Griswolds out there.
And remember that because it's going to be with your family, you probably won't be held responsible. So do whatever you'd like.
Have fun.
Two separate messages. Well, I think that's going to do it for us this time. Thank y'all once again for joining us on Layman's Law School. Remember to like and subscribe, please. Or comment something for the algorithm and let us know what you'd like us to discuss next. Thanks.